Knowing you,
Hi,
probably.
welcome everybody to the second Vogon Poetry Slam of the RoboPaint Developers Group, now including Ruby. Yay! Welcome, Ruby. And
No,
Max decided
Ruby,
not
not
to
the
show up.
programming language.
He's too busy. What's that? Not
Ruby,
the
not
programming.
the programming language.
And Max, not the programming language, although it's kind of a visual programming language if you've seen
Oh
it.
yeah, Max MSP. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a thing. Everyone's getting notifications that this has started officially.
Actually, that was EMSL Twitter.
Oh, was it? Did Oh dear, they're probably telling everyone about that this is happening. So
No, they didn't. They retweeted something about the Axie draw. I'm gonna get them to tweet that.
I
Challenge
what I
accepted.
usually do when I include Skylar on meetings is I have a little tally area on my whiteboard over here for how many times I'm completely distracted. I have to erase the giant set from before here, but
You just want to color in your whiteboard black, because I think you'll.
yeah, that's basically what I'd have to do. All right. So in this meeting, we're going to be talking all about the brand new RoboPaint version 2 and how that all works together with everything else, and how the code works and some real basic stuff with how to do modern crazy applications like we're doing and how you can help. It'll be great. Um, I think how this works is I select where everything goes. So I think Roger is presenting. I'm not actually sure if that's...
Yeah, Roger clicked present to or is that you clicked it?
Did I? I didn't click it. Well, this is new for everyone. I clicked it now, and now we're looking at Roger setting up his dev space.
Visual Studio to develop on Windows.
All right. That is not something I've tried. What we usually use is Atom. I was recommending NetBeans for a while. Had some issues with that, and it seems that Atom is a pretty good all-around one. It actually runs on the exact same base system that RoboPaint does, so it's a pretty good setup.
The base system being Electron.
Yes. Thank you for the extra information. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let's see here. Where's the button? I actually haven't tried this in Chrome on Linux yet. I hope it works.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I know, right? Let's see here. Cameraman. I wonder what that does. Well, this is me learning all about these things. Well, maybe, maybe I can talk about Roger doing it. That'll be fun. Oh my goodness. There's a lot to learn about Hangouts on Air, and I am way behind. We didn't have these problems before because it wasn't so fancy before. Entire screen. Tell me, is that working? Is that presented to everyone and you can see it?
You need to present yourself to... Yes.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Woohoo! All right, now someone will have to tell me what Ruby's saying because I have to move off screen.
Okay.
All right, so this is my messy dev area. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new one here and go to RoboPaint code. All right, so first things first. Let's go over to my RoboPaint area. This is where I developed. So there's two main projects for RoboPaint. It's CNC Server and RoboPaint itself, which has a bunch of other things. I work on so many little crazy things going on in here all the time that I have a big mess going on here of little things like the watercolor blocks, outputs, and the translator code, and a number of other things. But for the most part, what we try and do is break things out into separate component parts so that we don't have to worry about things getting too big and crazy. And one of the so here, let's pull back a little bit. Here's a question. Oh dear, that's terrible. Where's my button? Where can I stop screen share? There. Ruby, so what do you know about the project? Do you have access to or know anything about the watercolor bot? typing. Yes. I asked a lot of questions. Yes is only one piece of the puzzle. Oh, beautiful. You have one. Awesome. Max was saying that he knows some people at Evil Mad Scientist. We have one in computing class. Access to a few times per week. Well, perfect. I know that we've been trying to work on some kind of direction with this, but one of the big problems that we've been having recently is that it's just not fast enough to get the data out. So I've been working on that on the side to try and make it a little better. I'm going to go to the GitHub page for RoboPaint, and we can walk through some things. It's a little easier to do it on their page. So back to the screen share. I think this will work. Beautiful. All right, now I'm assuming you guys can see that. I'm going to go back here. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. So here is the main homepage for the main project for RoboPaint. If you haven't read the README, I highly recommend you do. It's always going to have more up-to-date information than whatever the stuff that I'm spouting about is, or at least it should. Actually, the features thing I have not updated in a very long time. So how I've built this out, so there's a very, very few files up here, and everything is inside of the resources directory. And we talk about how we've split everything off into a new set of projects. In the old version of RoboPaint, how this was built was basically that these were all separate folders inside of the main project. What I've now done is actually split all of these things off into their own separate repositories, so that everything that RoboPaint does is now its own separate application. So all the complexity and all the extra little things are broken out into their own projects. So if you want to contribute to any part, so there's the main part here, which actually manages the modes and settings and a few other things, and then the actual things that do stuff. Because the application itself doesn't really do anything. It's these modes here. This is for editing SVGs. It doesn't actually print anything. This one is for the basic printing mode that's on by default. Here is the remote print mode, where you can send SVGs to it, and we'll go and print them for you automatically. And the idea here is that these modes can do basically anything. This is a real picture of a real print from a raster image, which is made up of pixels. That was there's a spiral thing that you can do in one of the libraries called Paper.js, and I was able to pretty easily have it go along and look at a pixel and see whether or not how dark it was, and it would push a little bit further down to make a slightly darker area there, and then a slightly lighter area where it was, well, it would lift up on that, and you get a almost none. You get that from having a pen that has a little bit of bend to it. So let's see here. Oh, and here's the example text mode, which is a good mode for figuring out how modes work. Although not Roger, Skylar's done a little bit of work to make that a little bit easier for people to make modes, because that's where the real fun is, I think.
I can move into the mode maker later.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later. I know you've got some fun stuff to demo. So this is not where we manage the documentation for using the application. There would be a wiki here, but I've turned that off because Evil Mad Scientist actually manages the wiki there. And there's a little help icon in the main one. I should probably have a link to the main application help here. But yeah, that's where that wiki is. It needs to be updated desperately, although that's kind of not necessarily a fun thing that wants to be done. All of the issues, every problem or feature or something that we want to do is here in the Issues tab. Yes, I know you can help with that. I can't wait for more people to help, although it's good to get a really good idea of what the whole project is about first. So that's why we're here. So there's all sorts of interesting discussions happening on here. There's a few very familiar faces you'll see here. There's me, Tech Ninja, Oskay, that's Wendell. Rio is a guy I have never actually met. He's likely to be watching this, or actually, I don't even know it's a guy. I have no
A
idea, but I've never
person.
met this person. What's up?
A person.
It's a person. It's definitely some kind of human, or possibly a strong AI. We don't know. Who helped us with our French translation, and a number of other things, and has been asking for some very interesting things. So usually their discussions are very interesting and go off on tangents. Rio wants a Raspberry Pi based server that picks up images that people make in RoboPaint to send to the bot one after the other. It sounds like a really cool thing. We just haven't had people to help out with the various bits and pieces. And you'll find that issue in here somewhere. There's 168 closed. Closed for various reasons. A number of bugs. You'll see the bugs in red. We try and label these as best we can, but we can't. We don't always do that so well. I've added a few more new labels. Which here's the labels. Specifically for this, so we have a documentation label if documentation needs doing. Helper dev is a new one that I think we're going to start tagging for items that make a whole lot of sense. We may make all the issues that we need for either wikis being updated or other things that need doing. We'll have helper dev on them, so you can just click that and it will show you all the issues that have that tag. We don't have anything for that just yet, but we'll be getting to it. I do all of the work on this project in my spare time, just out of the I feel good
Just
about
out of
being
your daughter making the watercolor bot.
Well, I know. I mean, yeah, it's my daughter, but it's a cool project. I had never done anything like this before. 3 years ago, none of this stuff existed, and now I'm knee deep in fun, interesting, open source stuff. I've never really owned a project before, so this is
Yes.
this is
Fun
fun.
stuff like building Node serial port for Electron.
That's not fun. That's not fun for anyone, and we don't speak of that.
Okay.
All right. So the one thing I was actually looking for was, oh dear, we have to. We did this a year ago for the 2-year anniversary.
Oh, wait, so we're gonna need 3 candles on the cake now.
We're likely we'll need more. There's some
Just go
really
for
great
5
questions
and
in
then
here.
we'll remove some if we get it done before then.
I'm going to say we need to make it programmatic, so you can set any number of candles on the cake. That'll be a new mode, birthday cake mode. It's perfect. I was looking for the mode ideas post.
Oh, the meta one. 163 or 193.
Is it?
It's 193. I was in it recently.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I set this post up way back in 2014. And it talks all about, basically, I had more ideas than I had time, and I wanted to document them somewhere. And I know that Windell has never really prioritized the adding of features if the main program is still in flux and not up to snuff for our base users, which I completely agree with. So I created this as kind of a landing area for if we ever have time or we want to add awesome things. And this was before I had even thought up how modes are supposed to work. And now that I have them in a way that they're completely separate projects, this is a very, very easy thing for someone to just go and create a new mode idea, build it completely out, completely separate of the main project, and then it can be added later.
The other nice thing about the way this is done is it also means that now, because even the main things like edit and print are modes that people can develop this and also they're effectively completely independent, which makes development much easier and nicer.
Unless you need to add changes to every single one.
Yes. Which we had to do due to an update to NPM recently.
If you were in the Gitter chat, you'd see that there were at least, I don't
10
know,
or more.
There's all these ideas. We probably should put pictures on each one of these to help inspire anyone who wants to do work on these. But yeah, that's all there, and so that's issues. Let's talk a little bit about Gosh, I probably should have prepared a little bit more for this, huh? So Ruby, you know a little bit of Ruby. Uh, how much JavaScript and web development stuff do you know? I'm just curious. Barely any. Well, that's all right. We so you can actually JavaScript is one of those languages that everyone is writing for, so that we can have more entrants. I've seen Python for JavaScript. There's probably some kind of a Ruby compiler. There could be a process. I know there is definitely a processing compiler thing that you could use. You wouldn't use it to necessarily make a mode. You'd have a mode that uses it to make drawings, so that you could take processing sketches and move them over. So this is Chrome. This is your everyone's favorite quick browser without all that Firefox business. I run both.
Without Yahoo as the default search engine.
They need their money somehow. That's what that's about. Okay.
Google gets it through ads.
So, what we use to okay, so here's a little bit more background. The RoboPaint application used to be stuck inside of this thing that I called CNC Server, which I built way back in 2013. I had a link. There it is. So notice that this is under the Evil Mad project, but this is CNC Server still under mine specifically. So RoboPaint actually started inside of this thing called CNC Server, which I built as kind of a weird experiment. So I'm a web developer. I've been doing it for a while. I don't know, since 2000 and 2003 or something like that, back when the web was still young and pretty ugly. And so 10 years after that...
Web is still pretty ugly. Comic Sans.
I don't have any Comic Sans on this page, sir.
Yes.
I don't even know what to say to you.
That doesn't mean other people don't use Comic Sans.
For websites, it's pretty it doesn't happen that often. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get to here is that in 2013, Sylvia brought back her prototype watercolor bot, and there was nothing to control it, and I had never really written any kind of robotic control software before, and I had actually just lost my job at a startup, so I decided to try and build a RESTful service for a robot. I thought this would be a fun, crazy thing to try after Ninja Node. Another fun project which we can have fun with later. Let's see if I can get to
I'll
it.
put ninjanode.tn42.com.
Yeah. So I learned Node.js. So
It's not.
Do you keep talking over me on purpose, Skylar? I know you do.
Sure, I'll let you.
So this was 2012 or so. I knew a little bit of JavaScript. JavaScript is the language that powers the web, and it's built into the web browser and allows you to do stuff with bits and pieces of web pages. If you press F12, or not F12 if you're on a Mac.
Command Alt-I.
Command Alt-I. You then get this thing that allows you can write JavaScript directly in the console. You can see every element that makes up the page and hover over it to see. I can hover over this and see there's an image tag. If you know any HTML,
explain the element selector button?
It does exactly what it says. You click it,
you can
and then you
click
can
the button and select an element.
Exactly. A very, very useful thing. This was started way back in the day by a Firefox plugin called Firebug, which they then built out into the actual browser. Chrome took a lot of cues from it. It looks almost exactly like Firebug did back in the day. I think they started around 2006 or something like that. Anyway, this allows you to inspect the what's called the DOM, the Document Object Markup. And each of these, if you go to view the source, so this is the actual source code of the page, but this is this is how the source code is understood, as actual elements and things. And from here you can see the CSS styles that make it pretty, which you can actually turn off and make it do awful things. And you can even go in here and delete stuff if you want to. It's gone, but it's not gone forever. That's just in our local representation of the page. You can go in here and you can change what things say. If there's text on them, we could just double-click here and say, wow, look at that. And there's the text that we want. If we refresh, whatever we had just done, whatever we're looking at, goes away. So this is all powered by JavaScript. And a lot of things on the web are currently powered by JavaScript. And my crazy application here is powered by JavaScript in 2 ways. In one, it's powered by JavaScript here on the client side. So when I hover over this and I click it, it scrolls down not because of something in the HTML, but because I have a click event on this element to go and do that. I can then put a name. So here's another thing. Where is this page coming from? Where is this source code being generated from? This is being generated from a Node.js application, which has JavaScript on the server side, which goes and pulls from HTML files and then injects and has a bunch of other information in it. So if anyone else wanted to join, I'm just going to put my name in here, and anyone else could too. There's Skylar. This uses a technology called WebSockets, which is a very fast way of 2-way communication with the server. So in standard JavaScript objects, I store the position of the spaceships, and the server listens for the key presses that the client sends to it, and then you have basically a little spaceship game. There's a bunch of stuff that is missing from this, but all of that would make it more complex. I kind of just wanted to make something that was a test, that does a proof of concept that this thing will even work. And I had always wanted to do something fun like this where anyone can just join without having to do any kind of sign up. You just put a name in and you have it. Oh, he's shooting at me. Oh boy.
One nice feature of Chrome is that if there's a flag you can enable where you can mute tabs that are playing audio.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. How do you?
Chrome.
Hey, I muted it. There we go, and I died. Well, okay, we don't need to talk anymore about that. So that's all made with JavaScript on the client side and JavaScript on the server side.
Also,
JavaScript is a yes, Skylar.
You can also use JavaScript to make things called bookmarklets, which it's a bookmark, except when you click it, it runs JavaScript. And I made some for Ninja Node to do things automatically, like place mines everywhere or shoot people.
It's true. You can do all sorts of amazing things. Now, the neat thing about JavaScript is that it's just kind of this relatively simple language definition that allows you to do awesome things. And there's a number of wrappers and libraries, and by a number I mean hundreds of thousands of wrappers and libraries that allow you to do some very big things without having to try too hard. So some very, very simple basics of the language here. It's not too tricky to get into. And once you know that you can do some things with it, you feel better about it. If you want a variable, you simply say var. In the new version of the language, you can also say let. So if you want to make something let a value, so we'll just say var and then g. It can be anything. You can type almost anything you want in here as long as it doesn't have spaces or some special characters. There are 2 characters you can have that are special that you can have as a name, and that's a $sign and an underscore. I think I can actually make this bigger. There we go. Which are actually the names of some the shortcut variables for a number of very popular libraries. One of them being jQuery, and the other one being underscore or Lodash, as Skylar's more favorite is.
Lodash seems to be a moderner fork of underscore.
Right. And how we talk to the user is through the console. So we have an object called console. If you notice, Chrome is doing its best because it knows about every object that happens to exist. So we can actually go look at every single thing here. We can go find them. We can search for them. We can do all sorts of crazy things. But here's the console. And we can say console.log. And we can put anything we want in here, like this. Hello world. And it typed up hello world. This right here is telling us what the output of this function is. When you see two parentheses, then you know you're executing a function. A function is just a thing that does something. You can define a function in all sorts of ways. The easiest one is to simply say function. And then you give it a name, like function wow. You give it these parentheses, and you can tell it what things you're going to be passing through. I'm just going to say arg for an argument. We open and close our curly braces, and I'll say console.log, and then I will pass along my arg there. Semicolons are technically optional-ish. I heard it best described as the semicolons are like wearing pants. You can wear pants in your home if you want, or you can not wear pants in your home if you don't want to. But it's probably a good idea to wear pants when you're working with other people, because
JavaScript's nice because it's incredibly forgiving, and you probably won't ever crash your web browser doing stuff unless you do something horrible.
I've done it.
It's relatively easy, actually, just an infinite loop.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chrome is really good at segregating processes, though, so it's hard.
All right. Now, what I've just done is defined a function called wow with a single argument come in, but you can actually put as many as you want in there, even without defining them. And it's called wow, and it's in the global namespace. So if there's anything else called wow, I just stepped all over it. I can now simply run WOW, and there it's trying to finish it up for me, and I can simply send anything I want. Let's send another, wow, look at that. Press enter, and there, it just did what I told it to do, which would say console.log arg. We can also send it something like a number. Let's see, it's the answer. 42. We can also send it something a little more complex, like an object. Objects in JavaScript are a little bit like arrays, but they're not. Pretty much everything is kind of like an object, like a function is an object, and a few other things are like an object. So we give it key and value pairs, and the values can be functions, they can be almost anything. Let's say answer is 42. It tells us it's an object with little curly braces there, and the answer is 42. This is the smallest JavaScript primer that we could possibly have that gives you a little better idea about what's going on. There's nothing scary in here, and the best thing about this is that it's available in almost any web browser. You just find your way to the console, and you're there. And it has a number of standards in it, so you'll be able to do these similar things. And I almost always, if I am trying to figure something out, does true equal true? It doesn't. But does empty object equal true? Not exactly. How about an empty array? It doesn't. If you ever want to know, you can just test it here. You can run it. This is the thing I like about this language beyond anything else, is that everyone has the ability, if you have a web browser, you can work with JavaScript. All right, so I'm going to move off to the next thing. What is the next thing, everyone? We should probably open up the application and mess with that. So let's do that. Let's do my entire screen here. Did I do that? I think I did. Entire screen. Sure. There we are. Woohoo. All right. So assuming this is working, I don't actually know. Oh, okay. So in my RoboPaint directory, I have code. That's where I keep the actual code. I keep all of my modes here, and then use a fancy thing to link them together so I can work on them at the same time. What we do to actually run the application is we use, I'm going to switch to master real quick. Here, Ruby, oh gosh, I'm going to stop doing that. Ruby, what do you know about Git and GitHub? My guess is that you're learning a little bit about that, and you're going to learn a bit more about that as you move forward. That seems like something that should definitely cover. And since I can't see your window, Skylar will have to tell me what you're saying.
He said yes.
Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out the master branch because I've been working on crazy alpha level things. I'm back to master. I now should be able to run npm start. And this should start Electron in the application. Oh, it's not working because I am running a version of CNC Server that is not anywhere near supported with the master version. So I'm going to go ahead and kill it, and let's switch back to my branch. Git checkout, CNC Server. Did I call it perf support? That was it. Okay, let's try this again. Should work. It works. All right. So this is RoboPaint version 2.0 beta 1. This is the current version that we have under the beta release, and it has a bunch of very strange, different, crazy things that we're trying out. And one of them is these crazy bubbles, which you may have seen the one of the issues there that was talking about this. Because I didn't really know if this was a good idea. This is what Sylvia originally wanted, was some interactive bubbles that do stuff. So I've made this so you can have the window at any size you want, and these things will just move around. And the idea here is that you don't necessarily want, if you're going to have a bunch of these, you don't necessarily want them to operate in the space where they are in a set location. This is another little thing I added here where you can see the status above everything, because the status is a global thing. It's not necessarily a mode thing. Anyway, so here's the main settings, which we recently changed a whole bunch to fill the whole space here. All of this has translation. That's another fun thing that we did sometime last year with a bunch of help from both Roger and Skylar. There's just a fun little drop down here, and this exists in all situations. So we know. I don't think translation for bubbles is working because we didn't go back and redo the translation. I think translation is tricky. Translation is a very hard problem for anybody. But as you see here, all the settings do properly translate to Russian here.
Almost.
We have a number of new settings.
Okay. I've noticed some that skip white paint.
The reason why this doesn't have it is... Ooh, that's a funny bug. This one's documented. That's a documented bug. Let's ignore that.
Oh, it's documented, so it's okay.
That makes everything fine. That makes everything totally fine. Okay, so let's switch back to English here. So a lot of things changed in the version 2 changeover. And one of the biggest ones was we switched over to this great library called paper.js. And what this does is it allows us to abstract a lot of the difficult drawing pieces that were very tricky to do with straight SVG. And so this is one of the cool things that it allows us to do, is to simply do a bunch of really cool things, like figure out, just given a circle, how in the world do we fill that with a line depending on overlaps? I don't know that I like this weird hover overlay thing, but nah, that's default, or at least I set it to default. And it allows us to do things a lot faster than we were doing before. We can actually set this to extremely fast, and it builds this. We can also set the precision to very fine, and you get a lot more precision. And these things are improving all the time when we're getting much better at understanding how to use these. And in fact, there's a new thing for Paper.js that does Boolean intersection on lines, which is something that we have not been able to do, and it would completely remove the need for stroke precision. and get perfect precision every time for line occlusion, which we couldn't do before, which is very cool. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of settings here. The ones to note here, if you're doing any kind of developing, is this right here under the advanced section for MISC, RoboPaint Debug. This will, you check this and it will open and ensure is open a developer window here. Which, does this look familiar? Yes, it does. Electron, which is the thing that runs this, is just a web browser. It's a web browser that's just for us, just for RoboPaint, that runs our web applications in HTML and JavaScript and CSS, exactly like
Ruby says she hasn't been able to install that properly.
I don't blame you. There's certain parts of this that are very tricky to get set up right. I suppose once your microphone starts working, and we'll have another call. I'll work with you directly, or Skylar will, or someone, to try and get this set up, and we can make the documentation better. If you notice, this looks just a little bit different because my version of Chromium is a bit newer than this one. But we can click here and we can find elements. Everything here you see is an element. Here's our Done button. And there it is. It's in a div tag called Buttons. And it has an ID of settings-done. It has a class of normal, which if you're curious, we can actually double-click here and just put something in front of that, like X. Something, and see what happens. Suddenly, it becomes ugly, an ugly default Linux button. But as soon as we add styles to it from our class, it gets pretty. And that's how all the prettiness and things are being added to this, is from classes and all the styles over here. We can actually turn these off too to see what it's doing. I guess we're moving the position of done with a float. Interesting. And there's the color of it, which you can then click and select a new base color for it. See, there's a little gradient being attached to it. Isn't that fun? So much fun stuff. But this is not actually changing anything right now. Apparently, there's a plugin you can get, so when you make changes here, it actually saves to the files.
You don't do a plugin. You should just be able to do sources and then add sources on like your local disk.
You tell it where the files are, and it goes and does it.
Yeah.
That's neat. A little scary, too. I've not wanted to get into that yet. There's a lot of crazy, awesome, neat things that you can actually do with it, but I have not gone into it. So this is the main page. What I've actually done here is I've turned on all the modes, or most of them anyway. When you go to the modes palette here in the new version, in the new beta version, you get a nice little layout here. All the modes should have a basic set of an icon and a picture. The Voronoi Stippler one is the one I'm working on locally that I've not pushed to anywhere yet, because...
Did you make sure to fix the package.json?
That's in master. This, I don't know, we wouldn't be seeing these if this wasn't fixed in the branch I'm currently working on, so I think, yeah, I think I fixed it. Or something. Anyway, these all have versions because they're their own projects, and they can be turned on and off just like that. You can actually turn off every single mode. I talked with Wendell about that. He actually kind of liked the idea of being able to turn everything off. And then you still have, well, I actually left that one on, didn't I? There it is. So you just have the remote paint mode. And isn't that animation fun? That's kind of over the top, but I know Sylvia wanted it, so we figured why not.
D3!
Yes, this is using a library called D3, and this is the only place that we're actually using D3, but it's a very cool SVG animation suite that lets you do some very fun things like take a circle and make it merge into a cloud for some reason. I'm going to go back here. So, whoop. Ooh, very fun. All right, so the modes. By default, only 2 modes are enabled. And each mode is just a thing being opened in its own little window. Well, that looks actually kind of nice. Let's go to the example mode, which is not called example mode except by name. It says your printer save text. It's trying to give you an idea of what it does. Let's open this up. And so what RoboPaint is actually doing is it's opened a completely new window inside of this window, which means you get a completely different dev tools, and you don't actually have access to the same things you did over here. So this controls the main window, which is this part and some of the parts that control the wrapper here. And this thing is its own little beast. It's like a little sandbox. So whatever wants to run in here can run in here, but it only gets access to stuff that we give it. And we can actually find in here the window that does it. There it is. It's not going to show us anything more. There's the web view. And we can even do something funny like move it down. And we can see the animation loading in the background, which is normally hidden, but that's apparently still going on in the background. I wonder if that's slowing things down. I have to wonder. Interesting. So let's see here. I'm going to remove that. Oops, it actually does need a top. Let's put that back up where it goes. There we go. Perfect.
Your processors are just hot enough to boil water.
Oh my goodness, 96 Celsius. I have to wonder if this thing was going to shut down pretty soon. My
Are
fan
you using a
ventilation
Mac?
is really good.
Because that's like standard operating temperature if you're on a Mac.
Yeah. Well, a Mac has a giant aluminum heatsink. It is a giant aluminum heatsink.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an ice pack for my laptop real quick. 1 second. Skylar, talk about your thing.
Okay. Should I share my screen and stuff?
I doubt you can.
Oh, yeah, right. You probably have to. So my thing is, it's called Mode Maker. What it does is it's a tool that lets you create modes or very easily make a mode in RoboPaint. Let me see if I can share my screen.
All right, ignore the clanking sounds as I add the ice pack to my laptop.
Can you? No, I think you have to show everyone my screen. Anyway.
I do. I guess you'll just have to wait. This will just take a few more minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's just hope my temperature goes down.
Oh gosh.
Okay. My CPU and memory are nearly pegged, so.
That's probably because Electron uses a ton of resources even when it's doing nothing with RoboPaint and stuff.
That's only on Mac, actually. This is mostly the fact that I'm streaming video straight from this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the text mode. You can actually write almost anything. So the reason why we have the mode ideas page there is because that links to things that are currently working and are in web browsers. So you could actually just copy and paste the stuff over and have the start of something that you need to make something work.
You usually need to make a few minor modifications.
You definitely do, and that's why there's a section there for that. But this mode uses Paper.js to take these text lines here, which are defined in a chunk of JSON, which just has the information in it, to render this, and then we can simply click Start, and it will send the information out to the watercolor bot or whatever bot is hooked up. So the way that this is all using CNC Server is that it doesn't actually matter what you have connected, as long as it knows how to talk to CNC Server, it knows how to talk to it. So we have 3 bots supported right now: AxiDraw, EggBot, and WatercolorBot. The AxiDraw and EggBot support is a little funny because a lot of this is painting-centric. We have a number of issues to go in and fix things so that the wording works, and that we can excuse me, have a better selection for bots. There's a branch that I haven't touched in a very long time that actually puts a little picture of the robot that you're using right here, so you can go and select it. It's really quite fun and cool and open, and I'm sure I'll have to open up for questions on that, but there's a bunch of really fun things you can do with this. And I think this is really, once we get past all the nitty-gritty of making sure we have buttons that do things and that there's nice things that make things work really easily, we won't have to worry about avoiding fun stuff like making new modes that do things. Like, I would have never thought of making a mode for doing spiral art like this, but there it is. And because I have dev mode up, we have this open. There's not a whole lot actually going on here. If we went to the code, I think I have the
There's
code up.
this wonderful thing called Paper.js that does a lot of the work for us. It's nice.
Oh yeah, it's really amazing. So here is Atom that I have for code. I'm currently knee deep in breaking CNC Surfer. This was one gigantic file, and I have since broken it up into a whole bunch of other files. The
A whole
way
bunch
that
of other gigantic files.
actually so it's a whole bunch of they're not really all that big. All the Q stuff is only 300 lines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great. I am a little lost about where I am at right now. Source is where I'm keeping everything. So all the API stuff is in here. I've got nice. I put a thing in Atom, so it puts a red line on everything that is wrong. So if I put like one extra character here, it says, "No, you can't do that." It's called linting. It tells you that there's a problem, but I have no issues right now on this file. And so that's all the API stuff. The API stuff is relatively short. Look, it's only 300 lines. The Scratch support for Scratch programming. I bet you anything, Ruby, you've probably tried Scratch. This is everything needed to make a Scratch abstraction for CNC Server. And technically, as soon as you have RoboPaint turned on, if you go through the console, which is going to be a complete mess right now, you can actually find where it says that Scratch support is right there. Scratch v2 programming support enabled. So if I had Scratch open and I was able to put in the extension, I would have a whole bunch of watercolor blocks that I can then put in places and have it draw. This is something we've been working on for a couple years now. I have a bunch of tests written for this to make it work, to make sure that it consistently works, but I think we're actually in pretty good shape with it. I haven't checked it in a little while because I've been rewriting the whole thing. Anyway, so that's kind of that. Modes are their entire own programs that do their own thing. They interact with an API, which is documented on GitHub here, which I can show you. APIs. I mentioned APIs at the beginning when you first join the Gitter chat, Ruby. An API is basically a way that a program can talk to another program, or a part of a program can talk to another part. Way back in the day, the leader of Amazon said, "We must make everything an API or we will die." This is a big famous letter that he did, or he was going to fire everyone who didn't change over to APIs. Because there was like 3 billion different ways for different parts of Amazon to talk to other parts of Amazon. So he made the edict, and now everything is like a service, a thing that tells other things what it can do. So I think, I'm not sure if there's the modes README is kind of like something to talk a little bit about what RoboPaint's mode API is. It comes a little down. But this README does a pretty good job of describing how you would make a mode, what the files are that you need, everything that has to go inside of the JSON file, which is really just text. JSON is the easiest format to ever to look at and understand. There's very, very little that's complex about it. But the only weird thing is the fact that you have to use the word true not inside quotes, and you have numbers that are not inside quotes. That's about it. And objects are obviously with curly braces, and then arrays are with square, but that's, yeah. Anyway, and you'd have translation in, where to put that, and the mode API. So in JavaScript, you have an object. An object is like just a word, a variable, that you can use. We have it as mode. And it's just this, but there's a bunch inside of it. If I simply say mode in here and press enter, it'll tell me all about it. So I can click this. I can see all the fun stuff about this mode and access this. So if I wanted to output this information, I could. Or do something with it. Or all this other stuff, fun stuff, is on it. So there's on buffer update. So if something updates, I know when that happens. Here's the name of the mode. I think there's some information about, yeah, all of this stuff comes from the configuration of it. So is this a core mode? Yes. Is its debug mode on? Yes. Where are the graphics for it? There's the icon. There's the previews. So to access this stuff, what you would do, you'd say something like mode.robopaint. Where is it? Graphics? Graphics. Icon. And there it is. Images, spiral icon. And if you know where the actual thing is, you can go and get it and put it in here or do something else with it. I don't think any modes currently do anything like that with their icons, but they do use these things all the time. And this mode object allows you to do all sorts of things. This run thing is very important. Mode.run is a function that this is the only part of the code that exists in this site, because what we have is we have this application that has to talk to this application. These are completely different processes, so they can't like send messages directly to each other except through IPC. And that's what you see here is IPC sent to host. It's basically just a little wrapper that says go do something over here. And the thing that does it over here basically just takes a list of commands and wants to do them. So I'm going to move my watercolor bot over just a little bit here, so that if it moves, or if I successfully move it, I don't kill anything. So we say mode.run, and we can say just simple text commands like up, or it's already up. Let's say down. You might not have heard it, but that was the servo moving. Let's move to a position. So we say move, and we give it an XY coordinate inside of curly braces. So we say X 100, Y 100. And let's see where that puts us. That moved. Beautiful. And then we can park. All we have to do is say park. It does everything for us. I could probably get the other camera running.
That would be nice.
Would it? All right, 1 second. I apparently can't make this any bigger. Oh, wait, no, I can, in fact, make it bigger. Beautiful. All right, so let me get the camera running. To do this is a little wacky. I have to go to the other machine here and probably turn on the light. Now, I think I'm invited to my own thing. I have read the agreement. All right. Let's not do that, shall we? All right, so I'm going to set this as present to everyone. I think that'll work. So there is my watercolor bot set up in a vertical position because I just don't have enough room on my desk right now. So I'm going to, I wish I could put this in a little window or something. I know what to do. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set me as present, and I'm going to view this, and I'm going to move this into here so we can see it at the same time. Do you think this is working? This might actually be working. All right, so let's do mode.run, and we'll move again. Still working? Yes, it's still working. Okay, good. Let's move to 500. 500? There it goes. Now, if you're wondering what units these are in, these are in the screen units for Paper.js. So when it finds an XY coordinate on its canvas, that's what you enter in. And that's I figured that was a very good way to do it. I think it's based off of 1152 by 864, but the 864 part is changed based on the aspect ratio of the thing. We can find all sorts of fun information out about that by doing mode.robopaint dot I think canvas, or does anyone remember what that is? CNC's the RoboPaint object has a bunch of really great things inside of it that we use for looking at things here. I've completely forgotten where to get the canvas information. I told Skylar about it one time.
What is this? Trying to get the canvas size?
Yeah, where's the canvas size?
RoboPaint. Here, actually, I have this up. I think it's RoboPaint.canvas.
I don't think it is.
In mode dot. No.
Oh, because it's actually
RoboPaint.canvas, I think. Yeah.
There it is. 1152 by 835. Aspect ratio of 0.725. Yada yada yada. This information comes from the actual robot itself. So
it's 96 or 90 dots per inch for the 1152 and 835.
That's the idea. Is that this is based off of some reasonable size for DPI conversions. This is approximately what FPG would think of it as.
Yeah, it's exactly 96 dots or units per inch.
Yeah. So if we set the Y to 835, and we set this to, I'll put this to 300 so we can see it. We move to that position. Now, the best thing about this is that you can run this as fast as you want. You can do this in a loop. You can do whatever. You don't have to worry about anything like, because the robot isn't actually fast enough to move to all the positions that you want at the exact same time. What this does is it pushes into what's called a buffer. It's a place where this stuff gets held onto for a while so that it can go and do its thing in the time that it needs to. And there's a bunch of little things that will trigger when it's done, because otherwise you don't know. So let's do a down. You might be able to see it. It moved. I'm going to move it all the way to the furthest drawing position on X. There we go. And let's move it up again. There we go. Apparently I have my drawing set up here. My up position is at 73, and my print position is at 56, which is not very high. I bet you anything, this is not going to work. Oh my gosh, it works. This is beautiful. I haven't tested this yet. There's a bunch of things I have not tested on this branch with the new performance stuff, so I'm very happy that's working. Okay, so now that that's set, you don't have to worry about what you have that set to. It should now move a lot more on both the down and the up. There's the down, and there's our up. If I wanted to run something else, I think you can just say height and then give it a number, like 0.5. Am I right? Oh, I'm totally correct. Or 0.1.
It's like you've used this software before.
It's like I knew what I was doing. The thing is, I forget half this stuff most of the time.
There's also other predefined heights like wash and stuff too, but that depends on the bot.
I don't actually think I added support for that. I could. Oh, I don't think this is going to work.
And this is how we find bugs.
No, I don't. This whole thing is a very strange API. Wash. Okay, I think that actually worked. I think it's called print or paint. Paint? That works. Let's go back to wash. Yeah, there it is. Neat. So this is what makes modes easy to write. All you have to do is put this in your code in whatever way you want with your X and Y coordinates on your little canvas thing here, and you got it. One of the modes that we need to make is where you click and drag on the screen after picking a color, and it will go and draw it for you. It'll redraw the line, basically, that you drew. And that's a relatively straightforward thing to do, but we haven't actually built it yet. I built out, as one of the very first things, big and ugly, is this fun little tool palette that looks just like the watercolor bot when you have it all set up. There's a wood background there, and you can go tell it what to do. And this all uses the exact same APIs for mode.run. Oh, one thing I forgot. We can do tools here. So I'm going to make so I can actually see this. I wonder if I'll break anything. So mode.run, let me say tool, and then we can say which one. Color 0? Will that work? There it goes. That's going to go get some non-existent paint. There's also, let's try color 6 dip. This is another tool. This probably shouldn't be another tool. It should be color 6 with an option of dip, but we haven't done that yet. There's color 6.
There are a lot of things we haven't done.
There's a lot of things we haven't done, and a lot of things that really wouldn't be that hard to do. It's just we haven't had the time. So, so to get back to, if we want water, is water 0, 1, and 2. Water 2. We'll get the water, which uses the wash position, which pushes the brush down just a little further. And then there's water 1, and we can just go ahead and run water 0, and it will happen whenever it can. So I can go run water 1, 0, 1, 0, and it'll take its time. It'll do whatever it needs to, and it'll actually let us know when it's completed in another area. So if you need to know when that's happening. You can also clear the buffer. So if you just set it to do 3 million things and you don't necessarily want it to, you could go and clear the buffer. I think we have some run options for that, probably like buffer, and we can say, or just maybe clear buffer. I don't have the sheet in front of me. I probably could have a sheet in front of me. But anyway, this is just kind of to show you how this works. And it's not too hard. Does that seem like something you could probably even do, Ruby? What do you think?
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, all right. I'm going to take that as a very positive position. Some of this stuff is weird and hard and complex, but for some strange reason, Roger and Skylar have been doing this stuff here for months.
Because we have nothing
they keep
better
coming back. I do not know why. They should have left, run screaming for the hills, but they're still here. All right, so yeah, that's kind of the long and the short of it. There's a few other fun little things in here. So I wrote the bases for all of these projects here, but not this one. This project is called Method Draw, which is based off a project called SVG Edit. Which is kind of like, if you've ever played with Illustrator, it's a vector drawing application, but it's inside of our little browser window here. So when you make things here, that's a lot of groups here. There we are. Move things around, change the color. I've done a couple modifications through a script oh God, this is just a mess. Let's get rid of this right now. That allow us to use the same color picker. So here in the settings, you can go and pick a different color set, and that will change what colors are available here. And as soon as I go and click the print button, yeah, there's a whole ticket for this. I think I might have mentioned this to you. Nothing in here actually makes any sense according to anything. So what I've actually figured to do is completely get rid of this box and save everything that anyone ever does in the program. And there'll just be a little button over here or something that you can then go open a previously open thing. Because right now it's just saying, if you were to quit, if you just did that and you didn't save anything and you just quit right here, this thing would be gone. And it's so beautiful, too. Not. There's some other fun, crazy things like ensuring that this is always the right size, and some stuff to keep this from sizing down to a size that's not too small. But for the most part, that's kind of it. These buttons.
Is it keeping the window from being too small just specified in Electron?
Yes, that is specified in the Electron thing, but you still have to. Yeah, fine. All right. So I think that's pretty much it for what's new and interesting in RoboPaint and how all this business works. Well, sort of. And yeah, this is all built on stuff that if you were to learn would still be good for almost anything else that has to do with the web, and the web is everywhere and everything right now. Well, minus some parts of mobile development, but yeah, that's something else. All right, I'm actually going to stop my screen share so that I guess I'll leave this on. So a fun thing about this, the way that the API works is that it goes over the internet. So when we originally were working on getting the robot to work for a demo at the White House, we had Robot Girl code an app in for iOS on my iPad that then talked to this thing, but she didn't have a robot. So I opened up a port in my firewall and had her connect to it, and I just set up Hangouts and put this camera over the top, and she would make it go. And there was one time I was testing, but I forgot that I had left it open, and she just started drawing on it at the same time I was doing stuff. It was it's probably not what I wanted to do.
Oh
But,
god.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
I have
she's
a
like,
robot that I could
I'm
actually
sorry.
fix and you could use.
What's that?
I have a robot that I should fix and then Ruby could use while she's not at school.
We totally could. Or we could poke a hole in the school's firewall. I'm sure
Yes.
that wouldn't mind.
I'm not sure how the school would like that.
Skylar, Roger.
Uh,
Oh dear.
Roger, did you poke a hole in your firewall? You didn't do
Not
that.
quite, but
I
we
think it
actually.
exploded.
You're clipping.
Oh, I am.
I'm gonna.
Sorry.
What have you done?
TeamViewer actually works on headless Linux, so you can, if you do some crazy.
Roger, we can't hear you. You're either clipping or dropping packets or both, or...
I think what's happened is he has a bad analog mic connection on a desktop machine.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
Yes, much better.
Much better. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bad analog. So TeamViewer works on headless Linux, and if you can get your school network to behave in such a way where it will allow TeamViewer connections through, you can actually open TeamViewer connections out through. That's what we do at the robotics lab. So
set up a Raspberry Pi. Does TeamViewer need x86 to run on it?
I'm not actually sure
I'm guessing it probably needs to be x86. But
I believe we're in the weeds. Let's see. Now, Roger or Skylar, do you guys have anything to show off or talk about that you think would be really important for your time?
So I'll show a few things.
Okay.
Should I show my comic mode?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. I know you had something that was going on. I'm sure it won't be a very interesting demo because it takes probably like hours to print, but you should at least show it off. So.
Yeah, okay. So this is... Actually, let me share my screen. Hang on. Yeah, that should be good. Okay. So this is not Windows XP, even though it might look like that. That's a bad joke, as are many of them.
I'm marking that in your totally distracted list here.
Okay. So a few things I've done. So this is a RoboPaint mode I've made. It's called Comic because James didn't want me to use the name Raster because he was going to make a Raster mode. Hasn't
I
been.
totally am. It's going to happen.
Sure. So this mode, I've added a few different things. I'll show you this. So I'm actually working right now on doing CMYK printing. Which I haven't done. I actually was going to test that this evening. But as this draws, I'll show you it. What this mode does is it scans, so you give it an image. In this case, it's this image that on Wikipedia and a bunch of websites use to show CMYK color stuff. And you then tell it to run. It will then run and process it. And what it does is it will go to every pixel and check, is it darker or lighter than a threshold? In this case, it's half. And if it is, it will then put ink there or not put ink there. I have some other weird math stuff I do to take like all this ugly math here to do CMYK stuff. This is what it might look like. I need to test it to see. You can also do black and white as well. But what's nice about this mode is you don't need a vector image, so you can take anything and print it. Here's a nice one. Where is it? This is it. That's way too huge. So I can pull up the website, because that is a thing we can do. So this is one of the things that I've drawn with it in black and white. The image will load.
I just want to give Skylar some brownie points here for uploading an image and changing the README. Thank you so much. For the longest time, as he was working on this, he
said RoboPaint. Yeah, Wendell was wondering about that when I sent it to him. Yeah, this took about 4 hours to draw. I was doing it at about 50% speed, and there's 1,000-ish horizontal lines. It looks really nice, though.
What kind of pen was that?
That was actually, it's my everyday use pen that I have in my pocket. It's a Pilot, let's see.
It's not a ballpoint. It's a.
No, it is ballpoint. It's not a marker. It's
surprisingly dark gray.
It's a Pilot something or other pen. It writes well. I think it's a gel ballpoint thing.
This is the right way to destroy your pen. I think that's what.
Okay, the one other thing I did is I modified my watercolor bot. I should show you this.
So the watercolor bot he has is my ex watercolor bot upgraded with a few things. It was a little broken because of some things that I had done. Did you actually desolder some of the hardware modifications I made to the iBot board?
No, they're still on there. I modified my watercolor bot to work well with pens. The way the watercolor bot is designed, it has a direct linkage from the brush lift motor to the brush/pen holder,
which is to say it can be very hard on the actual holder because
I modified it so that it isn't like
actually show a picture.
What?
A picture would be very helpful in this situation.
Yeah. I modified it so it acts more like the Eggbot, where the motor just lifts the pen, but can't force it down, and instead it uses a spring in the design of the watercolor bot to force it down. That works really well. I'll see if I have a photo of the modification, because my watercolor bot's currently a bit of a borked right now.
It's not impossible to use pens with the watercolor bot. It is a very flat surface. You can stick them in there. You can get the pressure just about right, and it will work just fine. It's just a little easier to use if it gives a little bit, and it doesn't usually want to give a whole lot because there's no give built into the system. It's meant to use paintbrushes, so those have give built into them, into the brush itself.
Yes. Well, and you need to force paintbrushes. Another thing I've made, which...
yes.
The other thing I've done a lot with is RoboPaint Tools, which has two things. One is RoboPaint Print, that if you open remote, actually you don't need remote mode open, but so if you're in RoboPaint remote mode, you can see this better. It's a tool that lets you send SVGs to remote mode to get printed. Which is good, because that didn't really exist before easily. I guess there's a wonderful tool called Postman that you can use to test APIs and stuff. So if you use RoboPaint Remote Print, so the way it works is it's a terminal command line thing. You run it, it'll give you the helpful help thing. You really just specify, here's a file to print. So if I do, let's see, main, or modes,
You busily getting your demo ready, Roger?
Yeah, images, template icon.svg. So if I run it, you'll then see in mode template, here's the temp SVG that it's going to print, and I can say ready to print, and now it prints it. Yeah.
That's neat. I hadn't seen this demoed yet, and that's really quite fun.
Really? That sounded quite sarcastic. The other thing...
No, I'm not sarcastic at all. That was really cool.
is Mode Maker, which you can run, and let me make the text bigger.
Yeah, zoom in for our badly-eyed people like me.
Or just with... So you give the mode name, which is usually in the format of RoboPaint mode test, in this case. Cloning... Okay, you would just put test. Do not do RoboPaint mode, because it adds that. I haven't used it in a while. You do author, you do the info name, test, RoboPaint mode. Use for testing. Detail. And it then gives you a mode. If we look in the thing, you'll see that it puts all the files in there for you, and it makes it nice to where you get a package.json file, and this is a valid mode right now.
Prove it.
Okay, I'm going to do it again so it's less ugly. So if you run Mode Maker, let's call it test. So it actually clones a Git repo that I have set up. I should publish it to NPM, but I haven't gotten around to that.
By the way, publishing to NPM is frighteningly easy.
I know.
It's really scary easy how easy they make it. As long as you have a version in there and it hasn't been taken, all you have to do is log in with NPM and then say publish, and it's done. You don't have to do anything else.
So what you need to do is they're actually... I'm going to close Electron because I need to restart it. Let me open Finder to... Okay. Open up. So the directory structure, can I make this bigger?
And Ruby, if you've never really worked in the terminal before, it may seem a bit scary, and everyone has been scared of it at some point in their life.
Yes.
But really, what it does is exactly what you tell it, which is one of the best things about it.
Also, one of the worst things.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not good at typing or you mess something up, that happens.
Tab is really nice, and that'll autocomplete things. So the way this works is, there's a folder. So the RoboPaint exists in a folder called main. The modes are installed as a node module, like anything else in the node modules folder. There are two ways you can install it. One way, you just copy it to node modules, which is not a good way of doing it because node modules isn't kept track of, and you could wipe it out or whatever. The better way is I keep my modes, you do this too. Keep them in a separate folder, and then you use this wonderful tool called npm link. And let me move this mode to a separate folder. RoboPaint mode test modes. And so now now you see we move test to the modes folder. CD is change directory to move inside a folder. So npm link. npm is node package manager. It takes care of managing a bunch of node software. npm link. You just run it like this, and if you have valid package.json, which this does, it will it'll make a link into it makes a link into your node modules folder for npm, pointing to this mode here. Now if I go to the Electron, or where RoboPaint is located, main, I can do npm link RoboPaint mode test, and this will install it as if it was an npm package that I published, but RoboPaint mode test. But the cool thing is that it's actually a symlink, which it's effectively saying, James, do you want to explain symlinks?
Sure. Symlink is on Windows. It's called a shortcut. In things, it's just like saying this thing exists here. It totally does, but actually it exists over here. So
Yeah.
you can keep something in a completely different place, even on a different hard drive if you want.
Those you need to do a hard link, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
the other thing, so now if I run this with npm start, you need to restart Electron for it to load the nodes due to the way it's designed, or when it loads them, or restart RoboPaint, not Electron. So when this starts,
by the way, his computer is slow.
my computer is in need of more RAM. It only has 4 gigabytes of RAM. And
Terrible.
exactly.
I'm gonna
So
cry for
now if we look, this is RoboPaint mode test. Wait, hang on. Is there a limit to how many? Oh, actually, before you can use the mode, you need to go into Settings, Modes, and enable it. So you can see the text that we added, the mode name, the use text, and the detail text here. And now we can go, hey, look, it's clubbered because there are too many modes. If we go into our new mode we just made, you'll see it here. It doesn't actually do anything other than just give you a window, and the window does one cool thing. If you pull up CNC, if you send commands to the robot, 42, which you can do through like Scratch or something, and the robot's moving, you'll see it show you where the robot is and it move, and you can also park home and unlock motors. Start does nothing because there's nothing to do. It'll just get stuck like that because there's nothing to finish once it's started. But yeah, this makes making a mode very easy. And instead of like copy the example mode, mash it up with some other mode, and hopefully you understand how things are supposed to work.
You know what? I have to say, Skylar, this is so cool. It is 10 times better than the example thing that I had set up to be an example. I should just rename that thing to be text, and you should publish this as the real thing, and we'll add it to the official.
Actually, here, let's publish the mode now.
Well, actually, I wouldn't do that just yet. There's some extra stuff you probably want to put in your package.json.
Okay. Yeah. Cool thing. Actually, one last thing.
Roger, better be ready.
There.
Every time you say how cool this is, I keep feeling like you're sarcastic because I really don't think this is cool.
I am totally not. Here's the thing. I think the thing holding RoboPaint back, aside from crap that I'm dealing with to make it work better and work period, is modes. And if we can make that easier, like completely remove the barrier for people to make them, this is the one way to do it. If someone wants to make a mode, they don't want to deal with all that weird boilerplate crap. They want to just have something that they can start putting stuff in and get it working. And Ruby's like, yes, absolutely. I completely agree. And this is the easiest way to do it. If they had a thing that just said npm install RoboPaint tools, and then they just did rp tools make mode and then enter their information, they'd be done. They got it. It's good. And there's probably even things that we can add to that to make it even better, but for the most part, that's great. That's huge.
Yeah.
It's 10 times better than the stuff I had set up. So thank you for being better.
See, if this opens, the one last thing I'll show you is the cool thing is the way I've designed this, it's all parametric in that this determines the values that it replaces. So it says these are the files. Stop with this is the linter saying that this is, it's unhappy. Oh, it's indentation borgishness.
It wants very strong linter. I haven't
changed anything. So this file, which is part of the mode template that it pulls down, it tells it in the JSON file, find the key named info.name and replace it with info name. The author, because it's a valid mode, is me, so I have a regular expression to search for it. And this is nice because when you change the mode, you just change this when you publish it, and everything all works, usually.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Totally beautiful. And actually, speaking of that, changes to the base setup, like we did yesterday, need to happen to the template mode and a few other things.
I changed those.
Oh, did you already?
Yes.
But you didn't submit a pull request because it was yours.
Yeah, I own the repo. I have push
I
access.
honestly think if you can press Wendell into watching this, or at least this section, he would be willing to add you as a member so that you could administrate stuff on this
You realize
side.
I'd probably still open pull requests for everything, because I
No,
don't.
you should. That's actually so. In my daily job, we have a single branch, and we all open pull requests on branches for those
Okay.
things. Pull requests is how everyone does everything. You don't even need a completely separate copy of the repository.
Yeah, I've actually done that. It's more just that I wouldn't ever merge anything because I don't want to break anything.
So the way we do it in the real world, which is actually different for a few people, is we set it up so that there is a main master branch, and if you're doing something, if you're making a change, you make a new branch, you do your changes in there, and then you submit your pull request, and you have someone else take a look at that stuff.
Code review.
And during code review, they'll mark it, this needs to pass these tests, yada yada, do all this stuff. And when that's done, they come back and they give you the squirrel. Do you know what the squirrel is?
Squirrel.
I have.
Oh, an actual bona fide squirrel.
Well, I have a picture of the
presenting. Games present to everyone.
Why would I do that? You can see it. It's totally fine. This is approximately like double the size you would ever see it.
Yeah, they don't. Normally, it's just an emoji they use, right?
It's a tiny emoji that GitHub decided to use to say, ship it. This thing is good to go.
The ship it squirrel.
The ship it squirrel.
I should go
weird
with watercolor bot.
He's like gangster squirrel.
Yes.
I don't know.
I love how much Ruby is laughing.
It's good. We don't even. All right. This is I'm marking myself down as distracted in this one. There we go. That's one.
Can you show us your board?
No. Literally, no. I don't think I could. No.
Oh,
Anyway.
you get fired.
I'd have to mark us both down for being distracted. We've got to wrap this up. Let's move on to
Roger.
Roger. I've now set Roger as present to everyone, and he's totally not crazy. Sorry.
Yes. So, in addition to working on RoboPaint, something we worked on for RoboGames, which I don't know if you've heard of before or if either of the guys have told you about. It was a robotics competition that we entered the watercolor bot in, and one of the things I made for that was a program that hooks into CNC server's external HTTP API, which is actually accessible via an internal web page, kind of secretly being served by RoboPaint, which
it's not totally secret, but I mean it's there.
It's in the settings. It's localhost :40 or port 4242.
This is actually what RoboPaint used to be, is just this crappy web page.
Oh gosh.
You would load the SVGs in, just like you kind of would, except you'd only have so many there. I ran this on an iPad back in, like...
Wait, is there an SVG load button?
No. What I did was I removed pretty much everything and made this as simple as possible. I likely need to go back and redo this so that it's actually usable. Regardless, yes, Roger's totally right. We took this to RoboGames, and Roger and Skylar and Sylvia were all there, and we won first place.
In the
Drawbots.
We won more from the software that we wrote than the hardware itself.
It's a double. It's what does your robot do and how is your robot built, and quite a few other things. Actually, here's the thing: RoboGames is up for this year, so if we want to enter, we totally can enter, and the software that we make and the hardware additions that we do are all part of the job.
Actually, for RoboGames, I also made two other... actually, that should be a mode. A double pendulum simulator, which It's a double pendulum. It makes these really cool graphs. It's a simulation of like a chaotic system. It looks really cool. James is pulling one up. That should definitely be made into a mode. I should do that. The other one is have you heard of the Meggy Jr. Ruby? Yes? No? Okay. It's actually I have one right here. Actually, James, do you have a Meggy Jr.?
Not on me.
Okay.
You're supposed to keep these things. I mean, it's nearby somewhere.
Yeah. If you could pull it up, because that's easier than me having to like turn on the camera and.
It's in the finished kits section.
It's a game controller thing that and I set it up. I wrote some software for the Meggy Jr. and then a computer to adapt between the Meggy Jr. and the watercolor bot, and it was over Bluetooth, so it was wireless, where you could use the Meggy Jr. to control your watercolor bot, and you could call it making art, but it was more like making squiggles that were fun.
It's actually a really neat proof of concept. It shows that you have a piece of hardware here that you can then plug in and just through a little bit of software have it do stuff.
Yeah.
Like you could probably program these to say, draw this shape that it was displaying on the screen, because the screen doesn't have a lot of resolution, but it has enough to tell you about what's going on.
Yeah, I did is you use the arrow keys to move it, but you don't actually. You look at the watercolor bot to see what you're drawing. The screen tells you, like, this is the paint you have. Get more paint and whatnot.
All right, we're going to go back to Roger here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote this this is the software I actually wrote. It's called Spiraudio. It takes an audio source and makes kind of a spiral pattern from the audio data and streams that in real time to RoboPaint, or CNC server, which is built into RoboPaint, and then that actually controls the robot. So in theory, I can get this to work. It's actually been a while since I've ran this.
Are you using a spherical watercolor bot in a vacuum?
Not quite.
Well, then, if you were, in theory, it would work perfectly.
I think your automatic rim shot is not working. It's supposed to do.
Oh, I can't enable that mode because you're the moderator. Actually, wait, I have it on my phone. Never mind, I can just play the sound from my phone.
Yeah, so that's some of the art that it's generated, and I'm in the process of actually converting this over to a mode and getting it actually written in JavaScript.
Or you could do the weird Python JavaScript thing if you want. The thing is, the library is going to be the biggest part.
Yeah, the Python JavaScript thing worked okay for the demo at RoboGames, but it honestly was a hack job. So, and I know Rio had an issue created about generative modes, so I mentioned this to him, and yeah.
Awesome stuff. Oh, those were the days.
And those are the four fundamental forces.
Let's see here. I took the screen away from you again, Roger. So here is one of the examples I took home from. So yeah, this is an example of a software-defined chaotic system. So it's as if there was a pendulum on top of another pendulum, and then attached to that top one was a pen. But really, it was attached to the bot, and all of this stuff was completely simulated. So you could draw in anything you want. Fun thing about this is that it kept going over the same spot enough with the ballpoint pen that it was actually carving a hole straight through. And here's one that we didn't leave on for as long with a red pen. Worked pretty well.
Yeah, it's actually one of the pens that I used. I'm not sure if it was that one. It's a blue pen I got from a hotel. It's a Papermate Inkjoy. They are great pens for this, in that they write really smoothly and can take whatever.
Here is a picture of Adam Savage, which we were going to get to him at some point, but I kind of messed up. This was on the experimental drawing mode, and I think it skipped at some point. So there's a
We've
little
had
bit of
issues with that.
We've done much better ones though.
Yeah.
I don't have them here with me right now though.
We did a really good Grant Imahara one.
Yes, and we actually gave that one to Grant Imahara.
Yes.
That was good. Funny thing, he actually knew he was leaving or had already left Mythbusters at the time we talked to him. That was funny. We didn't know that.
You probably couldn't tell anyone. Oh, that's your
Yeah, this is my 4-color drawing. So I have 4 pens that approximately match CMYK. So by drawing each one, you do the cyan, magenta, the yellow, and the black, and they mix together to make a picture. You can't quite tell, but it's actually a flower. And here's this one, which we
Those
saw
are
before.
much bigger than I imagined they were.
Is it even bigger now? And this, I'm really proud of. This one came out really well. This is a hatch fill. I wonder how close I can get there so you can actually see all the
If you
detail.
hold it still, it'll focus, and then the quality will increase due to the encoding they use.
Assuming I keep it still. But I really do like it because I've never actually been able to do this before, and this was with the new Paper.js stuff. The previous application just could not handle stuff like this. It did take a little while to paint to do it, though. I think 3 hours. And my computer nearly melted.
Oh, is that the time you had to put the cold pack on it before?
Yeah, definitely. I had to get fans on it, too. I think I just needed to clean it. I probably need to clean it again. It should not be like that. The fan is working. Anyway, Roger, did you have anything else to show?
Nothing really. So.
Okay.
Great. Ruby, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's question time. And if you don't, that's totally okay. We talked about way too much stuff, and we're running close to our time limit here, so.
Will this what happens if we go past our time?
I think it just quits.
I thought it just keeps going until.
Also, it's good to make these things shorter because people get scared. I think the last one was like 3.5 hours.
4 hours, an hour longer than I remember it being.
No one wants to watch Dead Vogue on Poetry Slam.
One other piece of advice: if you're doing the raster mode, don't turn up the speed on the watercolor bot too high, especially if your image has a lot of detail. Because your servo motor for moving the pen could overheat and break if you do too much of that.
He says this like it's a hypothetical. He actually did it.
Yes, I did
killed
that.
the servo.
I actually just put on the replacement servo now because I've been busy and haven't gotten around to that. But
All
this
right, Ruby says, I can't think of questions right now, but I'm sure we'll later put them together. Thank you very much, everybody involved. This has been great and hopefully informative, and hopefully opens up some questions about stuff that people can ask, and you too, Ruby, and Skylar and Roger. Did you guys learn anything today?
I kind of couldn't pay attention for part of the blorg.
Did you say blorg?
Rogon Poetry Slam.
Oh, is that what that is? And I think Roger was busy getting something set up, so he might not have learned anything.
Yeah, I did actually learn some stuff, though, like with the mode setup and Skylar's mode tools. Those are pretty interesting.
I learned that, too. I learned that, too, today. That was pretty cool. Okay,
I'm feeling like you never use them at all, which, I mean...
If I was going to set up a mode, I would totally do that. I would totally use it. It's called dog food.
Don't use modes often, but when you do, you use my mode maker.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you guys so much. This has been fun, and thank you to all the people who are watching, all 1.5 of you. I have 0.5.
Was someone actually watching this during the course of the thing?
Actually, there's a little thing that says how many viewers we have. 0. Definitely 0.
Okay.
I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't say, hey, this is happening. Come watch this. It could have been one at some point during this, and we were just so boring. They left.
I'm not surprised.
Well, your teacher will see it later because it's being recorded, and that's well, possibly I don't know, probably not a good thing. If your liver is trying to escape by choking your esophagus, or I forget what the exact quote was.
Chewing off your arm to save yourself.
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, and remember to post in the Gitter chat or go to github.com/evil-mad/RoboPaint and submit a pull request or an issue, or whatever you want. All right, thank you. Bye.